afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the session on urban labs at the Smart City Expo. My name is Tomás Diez. I'm going to try to moderate the discussion around the different models of urban labs from different cities that are going to be presented today. Mostly in Europe, but we will have some examples from Mexico. And basically, we will try to go through the different experiences of each one of the organizations that you can see in my back, and then I will try to promote at least a more open discussion. Firstly, between the panel, and trying to look not only about the wonders of the project, but actually about the challenges and the possible identified weaknesses, and then open the discussion to you to be part of it. No? It is a pleasure to be here. Also, I think I don't know why I have been selected as the moderator. Maybe because I'm very young, not that young. I'm joking, but also because we are related here, or we are doing here in Barcelona an experiment related with the urban laboratories. In this case, using digital fabrication as a tool to recover citizen innovation and citizen empowerment through manufacturing. In this case, I think that this fits very well within the smart city agenda. And if you think about the smart city, it should be full of smart citizens. And I think a lot of the experiences that are going to be shared today are related of making people smarter through different means. No? So we will have, it's a pleasure to have here Frank Kresin, who is the director of research at Waag Society in Amsterdam. And we have been collaborating a lot in the past in Fab Labs and other experiments. Gabriella Gómez, a Chief Creativity Officer and el Laboratorio para la Ciudad at Mexico Distrito Federal. Lanfranco Marasso, who is the Living Lab Manager at PugliaSmartLab at Lecce, Italy. Giuseppe Marinelli de Marco, who is Deputy Director of ISIA ROMA Design, in Italy. And Martina Toffolo, the Urban Planning Consultant from Pordenone City Council in Pordenone, Italy as well. So we will try to challenge the Italians, I guess. And then I would like to start with Frank Kresin and introducing us their experience in Amsterdam.
Well, thank you very much for having me and having this presentation. How does it start? Yeah. My name is Frank. I'm the research director at Waag Society, a media lab in Amsterdam. And I will talk you through our values, our vision, and some of our projects in 8 minutes. Starting with a little bit heavy subject, the end of life. This is a project done by Dan Chen, who has made the end of life care machine. And it's a machine that, when people are dying in the end without a family, this machine will help them throughout those very hard moments of their life, caressing them gently, and at the same time whispering encouraging words that are specifically made for them. This is not a reality yet, but it's to testify that technology moves very fast and it will have a profound effect on our life. And we better be part of that development and not let people develop it for us, but let us develop it with them. And fortunately, we have people that can help. And I think they are artists, scientists, and technologists together. Our institute hosts 45 of them. We are located in the center of Amsterdam and exploring emergent technologies and looking at the effect they will have on our lives. In that case, we take technology as the central and the focal points, and technology in a certain sense. We think it's not something to be afraid of, it's something to be written by us in a sense. We have to be intimately acquainted with what technology does, how it works, and what it can do. And we look at technology for expression, for linking, for sharing, and for reflecting and understanding our current society. And by that, in that way, discovering its underlying meaning. That said, I think technology is not a neutral thing. Some people like to present it as something neutral, but it's not. There are values underlying technology, and we should take care of which values they are and make sure that the right values are embedded in and imbued in that kind of technology. And our heart goes with the grassroots and distributed and collaborative aspect of technology. And fortunately, you see more and more of those at conferences like this. So we are in that very interesting time there. We focus on 6 different areas that we think will have a large impact on our lives. It's open design, the cultural heritage, healthcare and education, of course the internet, but also events like biotechnology and nanotechnology, so the new and emerging technologies. And we have very different outputs, from events to software to hardware. We host a Fab Lab, a place where people can come together and explore technologies, and also make various products, and I will show some of those. Underlying all of them are these principles, and it's the do-it-yourself principles, or maybe even the do-it-together principles. The first one is that making is very crucial to understand and act in the world. So we should all become hands-on makers, having a first-hand perspective in the face of technology. The best producer of technology is often the user. We see this in the open source world, where the best open source technology is made by the people who actually use those. And at this point in time, you, I, we can learn to make almost anything. And we can take this very literally, because literally the knowledge to make things, and also the people who know how to make things, they're just a click away. And this is increasingly just a tangible fact. And then finally, this will be no surprise, but sharing blueprints, sharing ideas, sharing knowledge, sharing content is key to true and lasting innovation. We don't work by ourselves, so we are connected to a network of other organizations. You see some of them in Amsterdam that are having similar values but different approaches and different crowds. Knowledge institutes, innovation labs, accelerators. And we also have a large network in Europe. I think it's key to reach out to similar, likewise, organizations that share the vision and together make better things than ourselves. But you can only do so when you're rooted in a developer community. So you're rooted in the community that you work for. So we work a lot with citizens, smart citizens, engaged citizens, with developers, with the people who actually care and are able to make things. And we do this in a process called creative research. That's, I said we are art, science, technology, so we come from free art science explorations, like the one I showed you at the start. Then we go to context research, where we actually make things that solve a problem in a specific situation. And then we go to social innovation, trying to implement that in real life settings. One of the products we made is the Bodyguard. Anybody any idea what it is? It's a small piece of technology that will help people who have a hard time controlling their emotions to get aware of their emotions before they happen. So this means that these people, they're autists, they had a very hard time being in contact, for example, being in a job, because they would get angry at each other and not know what to do and walk away. So it's not good for your social life, it's not so good for your work life. So together with them, we made this small piece of technology that warms them before, so they can take action when it still matters. We have the Fab School. So I told you it's very important that people have the skills and get the skills not only to read technology as we can, but to write technology. And I think we should start with that very early. So we start with children, primary school children, and later we have the Fab Academy too. And there you get a first hand-on perspective on technology. First very small and then getting more and more difficult. We have the Health Living Lab. So we want, together with elderly people, come up with solutions for their lives when they get older. Nobody feels themselves old, nobody wants to be called old, nobody wants technology being thrown at him because they say, well, it's better for you. But what people do want is co-design the last part of their lives, or the latter part of their lives. And within Health Lab like this, we do that on a daily basis, and people like it very much. We also have to explore new kind of technologies. So I told you, we are rooted in the internet. We came to the hardware with the Fab Lab, with the making, and now we are exploring the territory of biology, helping people to get a first-hand perspective on hacking biology, for that matter, and also getting from playful results, but also very serious results. And the most serious one is crowdsourcing antibiotics. That's very hard to do in labs now, but it is possible when you use biolabs like this that are emerging everywhere. Then we try to interfere in product life cycles. Anybody just by chance heard of the Fairphone? Some? The Fairphone is a phone that is sourced from raw materials that are got from Africa in that sense, in a sustainable way. So it's raw materials, production materials. It's trying to interfere within the production cycle by actually making a consumer product and having it sold widely. So we now sold our 50,000th part, and we will sell more, I hope. But more important is this idea of that the technology that you have in your pocket should be fair in a sense. And we extended that recently to the fair smart meters. A lot of people are talking about smart meters and how they are important to get more data and then get the system of producing electricity more efficient in a sense. But what we are trying to do is to open up these meters. This is a meter that you're actually not allowed to open. We opened it up and we changed the procurement rules that are used to source these meters, and just in the Netherlands we'll have 40 million of them alone. So it will have a big impact if this comes through. So open up your technology. It's a Smart Citizen Kit. I'm almost out of time, I see, but this is the project that was born in Barcelona, and we did the first large-scale implementation in Amsterdam, learning how to have a better communication between people that care about their local environment and the government that is able to implement measures. And we will do so more in the future. And finally, I want to tell you, we don't do this just in Amsterdam. The work we do is relevant for other countries as well, and other ways too. We very much learn from other countries. So we participate in European Union programs to learn from each other and get more knowledge and share it. So like these. And I want to leave you with this. My last slide is technology is something not just to read, but also to write. And you can only do so when it's open technologies, embodying the values that we believe in. So don't trust technology that you cannot open, and try to get a first-hand perspective in that. Thank you very much.
Hola, hello everybody. So I come from Mexico City, as was well pointed out. And a year and a half ago, I got one of the most tantalizing offers that I've ever had. After working as a documentary filmmaker and journalist, I got a call from the now mayor of Mexico City, and he offered for us to invent a city department from scratch. So today I'm very briefly going to tell you about a very little lab for a very big city. It's called Laboratorio para la Ciudad. And there it is. So we are not alone in the world. We are part of a growing family of government laboratories. There's about 5 to 6 of us that depend on government, and another half a dozen or so that is funded by government but not of government. And we all we all have our areas of exploration, as well as our own DNA, which very much depends on the geopolitical situation of the cities that we live in, as well as where we're placed within, without government, as well as where in government. And even though we have different areas of exploration, one of the things that we do have in common is an experimental ethos. We are in many ways born to be able to mitigate the risk for government, because there's a paradox always. On one hand, the citizens, we want our governments to be sure-footed and solid and know what they're doing, but on the other hand, sometimes we complain that they're not innovative and creative enough. So that's actually where labs like us come into play, because then what we can do is create these safe spaces, if you will, to work with both civil society, government, to try different things out. And once they work, then what we can do is work with the other government actors as well as with civil society to implement them on a larger scale. This is the biggest difference, I think, from Laboratorio para la Ciudad to the other labs in the world. Mexico City metropolitan area, it's 22 million people. 50% of our population is under age 26. It's the 8th largest city economy in the world. So just Mexico City, Mexico City's economy is larger than the whole of Chile, for example, just to give you a sense of scale. So we definitely have some very interesting challenges, very interesting questions that we've been posing. And we do 4 things mostly. One of them is start researching what interesting things we could do for the city. We also start conversations with government, civil society. We do pilot projects and prototypes, and then we also implement them as well. We have 2 main areas of focus. One of them is civic innovation. The other one is urban creativity. Civic innovation means how can we start reinventing the way that government and civil society come together to collaborate. So in terms of Mexico City, we can either go through a paradigm of 20 million mouths to feed, if you will, or we can start thinking about 22 million minds. So we're very interested in starting to explore what the commons means, especially for a megalopolis and one of the largest cities in the world. This is my team. So it's a young team made out of, nowadays, 17 people, everything from artificial intelligence experts, urban psychologists, historians, journalists, editors, artists, designers, filmmakers, sociologists, and international relationships. And I've many times said that this is the lab itself is our first experiment, because we're 17 people, and only my lawyer, who's there in the glasses, he's the only one that had prior experience in government. So in many ways, we are actually the first civic innovation experiment in ourselves. This is the space that we work with. A 1,000 square meter rooftop on Mexico City that overlooks Mexico City. And what we've been trying to do is, if we're dealing with open government and dealing with making institutions a lot more porous, we thought that our workspace should be that very first gesture of starting to open up to civil society and have citizens not only come to government to file complaints or to file for services, but actually to come for ideas and debates and conferences and forums and workshops and talks. We also have a residency program going on where we've been inviting very interesting people from around the world, such as Perry Jen, who's a co-founder of Kickstarter, that nowadays pulls in about $1,300,000 a day through a crowdsourcing platform for creative projects worldwide. So this is a talk with Perry Chen. We also host much larger events to talk about things like walkable city, and we've been amazed to see how it fills up with young people as well as with experts that are really interested in talking about what it means to be a citizen in today's society. We also host things in public space. This, for example, we did with the artist Pedro Reyes, where we were debating about a somewhat controversial things that were happening in our transport system. So on the left side, you had the ones that were against it. On the right side, you had the ones that were for it. And then we can start debates in public forums and start also making government and thinking about cities a fascinating thing once again. We work, as I mentioned, in terms of experiments. We've had, in this last year and a half, more or less about 33 go on. We've been doing everything from creating digital thermometers to get a feeling of what is happening in the city and the sensation of the city, and using smart algorithms as well as citizen participation, to open innovation as well, where we have now received over 600 ideas from citizens and are incubating quite a few of them with city partners as well as NGOs. We also have a playful side trying to involve kids in city making, and this, for example, was a contest that we put out for kids to be able to recreate the plaza that's right in front of our office. If you see the little tower there, that's where we work for. And we had more than 7,000 kids playing digital urbanists and really trying to think about, like, what does it take to create a city? Because we're very interested in thinking about citizenship as a creative act. We can go from very practical things that I'll tell you in a second, but we can also try out things that are more outlandish and have been also working with artists. This is a work by Gilberto Esparza and Marcel Armas that we are placing in different parts of the city. And what it's doing through digital means is basically gathering ideas, complaints, sensations, urban imaginaries from the places that it gets poised in, and then being able to give that back to the city. So it's been very interesting to see if you put up a government department module, nobody listens and nobody really cares and just walks by in a busy city like Mexico City. But with these things, we're suddenly being able to create strange attractors in public space, which we found very interesting. And anything I should do to get the slides working? Sir? Oh, there it is. Thank you. We've also started creating events to put city officials together with citizens, especially a younger crowd. We created Mexico City's first data festival, and by day 4 we had 500 people signed up and 200 people on the waiting list ready to program for 48 hours, and added on a layer of about 60 city officials that were basically sharing their data. And so it was a beautiful excuse to start prototyping the type of society that we want. We also have Code from Mexico City, which is a 9-month fellowship program for young programmers that get inserted into city government. 5 of them were working very intensely, very closely with different city departments, and we have 2 of them that we're very proud of that we will be launching come January. This is the first generation of Code from Mexico City, as well as people that volunteer to help them out. One of the examples is Traxi, that we will be launching in January. Mexico City has more than 100,000 cabs, and 20,000 of extra cabs that are actually pirates, people that just painted the cabs, pretended they were cabs, and that's actually where a lot of people get held up and things like that. So because of 20,000 people out there, 100,000 hardworking taxi cab drivers are getting a very bad rap in Mexico City. So with this app, for the first time, you will be able to check with 4 different city departments that it actually is a real cab. And then also using Uber-like and Airbnb-like crowdsourcing platforms, we will be able to start having a starred system for the cab drivers that will go back to the Ministry of Transport so they can have a better feel of what is happening in the city. During their spare time, they also won 2nd place for the NASA international competition, creating an app that we can now listen to satellites conversations from our rooftop. And besides doing playful, smaller interventions that are more acupunctural in nature, we also have big sweeping strategic agendas, such as the Open Government, Now Open City platform, where we've come together with everybody from the mayor to all of the ministries in Mexico City and have been working, I won't get into it because my time is in zeros, but really working on a strategic agenda that will permit us to really think about how we can get citizens a lot more closely engaged to government. We also created a lab data that played at being interoperable for the first time, sharing data between ministries, and this went on to inspire the official data page for Mexico City. This is a look from and it has had more than 4 million consultations in 4 months, which speaks to a very high demand of these types of things. And then we've done workshops and all sorts of other events, and basically what we're proposing is, in modernist times we had the feeling that cities were supposed to be practical and efficient, but nowadays we're seeing that cities should not only be built for the human mind, but also for the human imagination. So we want to change the right to the city and access to the city to this notion of the right to co-create the reality of a city, and really are looking forward to articulate political will, public intention, and think about citizenship as a creative act and government as a catalyzer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very glad to be here today to present our project, probably, if I can get my slides. The story I'm going to tell you is a story starting a couple of years ago in the south of Italy. You know, the shape of Italy is a leg. We are in the bottom of the hill in the city of Lecce, which is surrounded by wonderful sea. We are in the capital city of the Baroques with a fantastic architecture, and there with nearly 100, sorry for that. Coming back in my presentation, I don't know what happened, but sometimes it happens. Okay, here we go. 2 years ago, we started with a project funded by the Italian Minister of Research and Education. Started with an idea to develop a research project linked to an educational master program. In the master program, we decided to involve in this course not just engineers or IT people, but we decided to start with economists, sociologists, manager, people involved in communication, in order to have a different view of what happened in the land, in our cities, in our smart communities. Lecce is a town of 100,000 people, and we decided to start with a living lab approach because we can define any kind of solution, technological solution, pushed by the offer side. But the real key of success in this kind of project is to start from the demand side, trying to involve in all the processes, all the stakeholders in the land, which are the citizens, of course, but also the educational systems, the industrial systems, all the businesses, the commercial, all the stakeholders involved in any kind of services. So we start from Lecce in a couple of years. That's a wonderful story. We are exporting the model in some other area of our countries in Europe, and now we are approaching also the Bay. My 2 colleagues are in San Francisco area in these days, and they are trying to, of course, learn something from the Cisco area, but of course also to deliver our European culture, which is strong, which is very important when we are talking about services. And the services are the last mile of technologies. Because in this project, we are going to talk about the services for public administration, but mainly for citizens, for all of us. The story starts with the Living Lab nearly 1 year ago, in the middle of 2013. And right now we have a number of contacts of people involved, more than 40 stakeholders involved in the Living Labs. 70 right now probably 100 sections of Living Lab involving any kind of stakeholders. Later on I'll show you something. We organize a number of local and national and international events connected with some European projects. So if you put on the table a proposal describing a project for citizens, the citizens are eager to be involved in and to be engaged in the process in order to deliver new services. Open innovation is our key. And open innovation is because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We have a lot of sophisticated technologies, solutions, but we don't need technology solution, but we need to use in a smart way, not for smart cities or for smart citizens, in a smart way, the technology available in order to deliver usable, easy, and smart services for all of us in our daily life. We approach service engineering because we need to reinvent and to rethink the processes behind the services delivered to the citizens. But we can understand the right way to deliver the services only if we engage all the stakeholders in the game. That's our challenges. Last year, we joined to ENOL, which is the European Network of Living Labs, in order to understand what happens around the world, not just in Europe, but we have a number of fantastic samples of living labs in Asia or in South America or in the United States, Canada too. So we need to understand as well as possible, and we need to learn how to put in practice these kind of applications. What we want to do and what we are doing with all the people involved in our Living Lab is to involve the stakeholders in the evaluation process for the services, co-evaluation process, a co-experience in order to identify individual or collective needs. And then we can apply the technology. And the success of this project shows to all of us that we can do it using European funds and using structural European funds in order to deliver services, real services for our community, for our people. Co-development, service provider must be contribute to develop a portion of services to mash up together in order to increase the added value for our community and co-delivery. And again, we can define new jobs and new opportunities for not only for young people, but also for the community to change the way to deliver services. In this chart, you can see on the top the smart community solution, the smart citizen communities. Frankly speaking, I don't like the term smart city because we need to work for well-being city or for easy city or for usable cities. We must use as smart as possible the technology we have available. We have developed some solutions starting from the needs from the stakeholders involved in the Living Lab. And of course, we have a number of sectional Living Labs. One is very important with the city of Milan, the next host of the Universal Expo 2015. We are managing with the University Bocconi a big event in the early December, trying to put together all the projects on the land. In most of the cases, the projects are silos and doesn't change any kind of information. And we replicate the same solution, and we don't use in an efficient way the funds and the money put on this project. With Lecce Smart Community, we define, you can see on the picture, there is a kind of network on the top of the main in the center, which is the former Minister of Research in Italy. We try to draw the picture, the network, collecting, joining a number of projects in the city trying to put in evidence the connections and the joint points in order to share the experience, which is a wonderful starting point in order to get more success in our project. For the candidation, the European Capital City in Lecce for 2018, we collect more 3,000 ideas rising from the people, trying to collect ideas with a number of meeting and audience with hundreds of citizens. And another thing very important related to the Living Lab is one term we use several times in our speech talking about the smart city, which is co-working. Co-working is in progress, and we are working in the center of the city, in the building of the municipalities, in order to work together, to design together with all the stakeholders the new services for the community. With another city, we are working on the knowledge hub, using the same methodology, using the same tools. So we are trying to share this kind of experience in order to collect and to make available this kind of things. In terms of solution, a few words. Tourism, smart community, and health, we have developed a number of solutions rising from the stakeholders. One, of course, I'm talking about Italy, and food and wine is important. Tradition is an application in order to push the made in Italy and our fantastic food. So we, just to go to the conclusion, we defined these young people managing the living labs, civic technologists, which is a new skill in the middle between the technology and the social science, trying to solve the problem related to the public-private partnership, to delivering services, to the well-being, which is the key of the smart cities. And of course, the last two are important, the return of investment and the social return of investment of the great amount of money we put on the table. Here we have, you have our references, and I'm available for any question during the discussion. Thank you.
What I would like to present you today is a case study designed and developed for the city of Pordenone, Italy. This is a hypothesis, a provocation, a dream born from a collaboration between ISIA, Istituto Superiore per l'Industria Artistiche, and the local government. The goal is to use the urban settings reshape as a gain for the rethinking of the social dynamics. My point of view is the point of view of the public administrator, who must ask herself which action by could useful to call social context into questions and trigger a positive process of change. The context in which we operate is Pordenone, a middle town in the northeast of Italy with a population of 50,000 inhabitants. Pordenone is a town with no particular problem, and maybe this is the reason why it doesn't feel so comfortable with its suburbs, born during the years of the economic boom and the lacking of a specifically rural identity. During the 70s and the 80s, a lot of change state had been built there. Today, during the present economic downturn, they look like the source of a potentially awkward situation. The question, as an administrator, I asked myself was, we are the best model of intervention to turn a potential critical situation into an opportunity for growth and social development, which could be the alternative that an administration local can bring to a community as an alternative inside of the usual measures of repression and supervision. aspire the white of state have a holiday experience. For example, the Nidburg agreement in France. I am convinced that the urban transformation and modification of the usual pattern of life can be powerful tools for union. The transition town model proposed of architect Giuseppe Marinelli, embedded within a social project, might take up this challenge. So we start from here. This hypothesis is look like in the same way too simple. It foresees the building of temporary houses within an extinct estate built in the 80s, where a group of families living on site could be temporarily moved in order to carry out a complete renovation of their homes. At the end, the families would return to their homes, which would have been renovation from the energetic, seismic, and architectural point of view. Which is then innovation? The moving in the temporary state corresponds with the beginning of a major revitalization of the community, led together by social workers and the community residents who must, in the transition period, refine the social context. The urban restoration combined with the model of the transition town became an opportunity to redefine the social model, changing the way of the become a level to re-examine previous social dynamics, driving the reform of the community where in the most reveal weakness and fragility. The change is ambitious, but I think that this is the one of those challenges that we ought to take. Today, the failure of a repressive pattern is evident, and so it is how to often trigger forever decay. On the other hand, we experience how far our living, urban, working, and social patterns are from nowadays needs. In other words, we every day realize we much our cities are not smart, and how much our fellow citizens, our productional system, our urban areas as well are not smart. Speaking of smart city, where normally assumed the ICT could be the key factor for transformation. Inside, we have to focus on the smart citizen. With on him, on her, no technology would be effective. With the case study of Pordenone, we would like to suggest a strategy to work on the individual through space transformation, urban context redesign, now housing and lifestyle models to consider the smart cities, the three on the unique layer of the smart cities. Thank you.
Right. Thanks to all of you to be there. Thanks to the chairman, and thanks also to the ICE, the Italian Institute of Foreign Trade, to support and sustain our effort, our project. Okay. The current mix of high-speed technology continuously resetting the job scenario, combined with a very competitive arena, makes the area of criticism greatly enlarged worldwide. We explore and propose experiment solutions for new urban typology able to interpret and respond to certain entities emerging from social change, focusing on disadvantaged groups of population. The project starts from the shift of the social model from society continent-based to the model of very molecular society archipelago-based. From a total traditionally family centrality, where the living space was almost all application of product innovation, to a society that constantly generates new types of family. The Mayor of Milan has discovered that by the National Institute of Statistical Research on Households Milan, that the half of the households people are currently single person. It's a one or more reason because of the historical recipients of social housing have greatly changed. And I am not still talking about the social effect of the climate change and the refugees' shocking evidence. In addition to this data, we know from reports of the United States that the next few decades, within 65-70% of the world population will live in cities or megacities. In short, in a major urban cluster. The term smart city delivers, therefore, a fascinating process in which ICT, joined to the mechatronics innovation, can and must contribute to the great simplification, facilitation, intelligent exaltation of the life in the city. City where a smart device, while we flounder in traffic, cooking for us and water the plants alone. But we know that technology by nature, role and destiny are never called upon to indicate direction of social value changes, or paradoxically to be the driver themselves. The role belongs only to the project factor, the design thinking. Take care on it. Sustainability certainly is now emergent and urgent, but I don't know if actually it's still to real core to the smart city matter and purpose. In my last decades experience, the heart of the problem is that while we're becoming more and more global, we're becoming less and less universal, and our capacity to imagine and conceptualize flattens out at an alarming rate. I think we need to restore an imaginary of the city as Bauhaus did, but for the third millennium, around which being the new economy based, of course, on sustainability. Exactly as a system is not the simply sum of its components, as systemic science says. Well, the settlement has absolute need of symbolic value. So the inhabitants of a transition town installed for temporary periods offer to the community their time and skill, perhaps only experience of life when we are speaking about the elderly people, in exchange of rates of use a social settlement. This time is fixed by the social network operated in transition town net in agree with the municipalities. This time is fixed by the social network for coming out of the crisis of your personal job or trouble. All is managed by its European municipalities through a relational model declined in several kinds. An example nearby could be United States time dollar or time banking. Through a social network analyzing the flows available of the phenomena of eco-life model. Think about the real possibilities that transition town model not only consume the site in which we live, but produces also, selling the permaculture products, self-production energy, nutrition, vertical farming, babysitting, elderly care, maintenance, teaching, space for rent due to the high modularity concept. Just give to a simple consideration. More than half of the global population really does not invest in a house settlement because they know that the furniture, even maintaining the function, will not solve our needs for years and years as in the past. Due to a hard mobility process, then an interesting problem is coming in. The furniture namely does not follow always the house, but sometimes the person in. Designer had the great opportunity to create a wonderful idea, modular sign-based, flexible, variable, adaptable, which the aim is to create home design and home identity through a new kind of modern, current, and contemporary modern vocabulary after a century of industrial design. Finally, we use the same pattern generated by the crisis to drive out the people and the economy from the crisis itself. Thus, on one hand, as a strongly pedagogical value stimulating initiative toward the younger generation, on the other hand, is based on a model very easily exportable because of economic globalization. It's applicable worldwide, and finally comes to support for social policies in Italian municipalities and European way very original. As it written by many economists, it comes to real economies without money. In our opinion, the innovative data consists in its systemic nature. While it tends to overcome the dualism of open system, closed system, using the concept of self-organization and use the technology mix materiality, immateriality in embedded mode and not in a show business mode, in which the human network of social difference, it is perceived as an opportunity, not as a problem, while avoiding the weight of public support now today impossible. The building complex located in Largo Cervignano in Pordenone, what Martina said just now, was created in a social housing program at the beginning of '8. It is certainly interesting that it is developed in a way especially considering the impact of town design. Today, this settlement shows a large deficit both at the plant for electrical and to the floodplain, and from the aspect of visual impact, particularly in the high part of the 8 stores in front of the road. The council has decided to use the paradigm transition town to the temporary architecture to be built exactly in the place of their daily life in order to be able in this way to achieve a big operation to avoid the environmental restoration, considerable discomfort or even injury to the mismatch of the elderly component and the children. The basic concept is to get a renewing of the new life at the courtyard house model, little space as in Italian city, especially if historical, joined to a linear house that contains the original transition town model. To conclude, this project is a system project, therefore it is all the future to be of interest to a wide variety of social actors, professional, business, financial, cultural, the design managements interconnected, assembling according to both redevelopment areas, urban, and the prospect for new field of business. Just think what you could be a new type of tourism, low cost, but in high dignity space for cultural innovation. Thinking about the design of hospitality and redesign of territories, yesterday industrial, today in strong crisis of identity. Think of design of cultural goods with a huge repertoire of archaeological site. Okay, the innovative process in history usual occurs for discontinuity, and we have to redesign our urban social fabric, which is affected by weakness of thought, to respond to the new needs and the new realities that the Italy world system poses. Many economists argue that innovation should be considered like a real cultural ecosystem or like a permanent system of learning, as suggested by Sarah Beckham and Michael Berry, or Berkeley University, where the choice of a question is more important than the answers. In essence, innovate is well possible if you agree to change for growing. Thank you very much.
No. Okay. Thank you, Giuseppe. Thank you, Martina. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Lanfranco. Thank you, Gabriella. Amazing presentations. Many different perspectives from different countries. I start to find some questions around scale, age ranges, funding, space. But I think that before starting a discussion, I wonder if someone has a question to throw to one of the speakers at this moment. We can do it now, or we can do it afterwards. Are there any questions from the public? Okay, so then I will start to talk about a little bit what I found really interesting. I think that one of the let's say the things I want to tackle is the issue of scale, no? And I think it maybe came out of, after I listened to your presentation, Gabriella, because I think you're tackling 22 million people. I'm wondering, when do you say that this experiment of having a laboratory in the city is a success? Because maybe if you reach 50,000 people in Amsterdam, it's a lot, but then in Mexico City it's just could be maybe nothing, no? So that's a question I have, maybe for not only for you, but actually from also the rest of you, and that relates also with scale. What is a laboratory in the scale of a city? How it generate impact? I mean, you see the whole city as a laboratory. You see that small laboratories operating and generating local impact, and then having an aggregated impact, or or how this is happening. So I think the scale issue can start with you.
Well, scale in terms of Mexico City, as I mentioned, 22 million people population, largest and oldest city on the American continent, is the question that does not let us sleep at night. What can I say? So, I mean, just 50% of the population, as I mentioned, is also under age 26. 5 million people ride our subway every day, so that's the whole of Chicago getting up on our subway and getting down from our subway on a daily basis. So yeah, it's crazy. Scale, it's a very interesting question. One of the things that we've been doing is trying to work on both sides of the scale. One of them is in terms, for example, of things that I didn't get into. We have some wider sweeping strategies, for example, the open city agenda, the global cities agenda, the creative city agenda, that has a lot of actors involved of really trying to create a vision for Mexico City that I think it's about many times creating a certain scaffolding, if you will, that other people can jump onto. Like how do you actually design for things to travel and for things to be taken on by other people? We just won last week the Audi Urban Future Award, thinking about mobility and how it pertains to a city that has it's a huge city, little data. 60% of our transport is informal, so we've come up with different ways that we can model traffic in Mexico City. So I have the feeling that on one hand we cannot ignore that we're working on a very large scale and really start doing the big projects, the big things. But at the same time, I'm incredibly interested in, as I mentioned, in the acupunctural effect of things and the micro-political territories, and just like how we can function at the scale of a neighborhood or at the scale of thinking about a very particular community, because many times we'll get thrown the question, okay, why are you doing a digital project if there's a digital divide, for example? But the thing is, you have to also sometimes be able to cut out a space from the city to be able to create some sort of effect.
Well, Thomas, the question is interesting, and after Mexico City is a bit difficult to try to provide you an answer. For our experience, in the city of 100,000 people, the scale is completely different. But what we did since the beginning of the project is try to think big and to act small. And in this term, the main problem is trying to identify the right services to provide to the community, and the right way to provide that, using the technology in a smart way, and involving the right stakeholders. Don't reinvent the wheel, as I mentioned before. And from this point of view, in order to provide services for the community, we have to involve the board of the city, trying to identify the right priorities. Doesn't matter about the scale in this case, because if we have a clear view of a clear vision of where we are going to go, we can solve it, we can provide services. But if we don't have vision, we can involve in the game a number of citizens, but we lost credibility. And in the past, we developed a number of projects, technological projects, but now a number of that projects are on the shelves. We provide a number of deliverables in terms of software, in terms of books, in terms of handbooks on the shelves, and nobody uses it. And most of the citizens doesn't know anything about the solution we have provided, maybe funded by the European Union. So my answer in front of a scale factor is trying to involve all the stakeholders to define the right priorities on the community, the small communities or the large communities, and trying to get this vision and to put in practice any possible actions to get the goal.
Yeah, thank you very much. We are a city of 750,000 inhabitants, a little bit bigger, but much smaller than you are. And I think there's three ways in which we scale our work, in a sense. Sometimes it's best to start a company. And we did so with the Fairphone, we did so with the City Service Development Kit on open data. And companies know how to make the things that we did more efficient and then bring it to a bigger public. So that's sometimes. The other, and the biggest one is your solution, I think. So it's involving the stakeholders that can actually scale. And we do that by continuously talking to them and trying them to internalize the values on technology development, having people and user at the center, at the core of their thinking, and in that way entice them to come up with better ways to solve their problems, I think. And the final way is to build on the community stakeholders. So we have a set of evangelists throughout the city on all the levels, and we try to put them on the stage as much as possible. So then there's the secondary effect of them having an impact in the communities they work with.
Okay, speak, we agree the answer. Okay, Pordenone is pretty small. The Mexico City is only 400 times smaller. But for me, my opinion, I'm a project, an architect, designer, teacher. I have 35 years of experience in the project. The problem is, rather than the scale, is rather than the edge of the problematic. The team manager and also the several team managers, they have to be able to drive the problem in a modality that the age is able to link and communicate between, I don't know, the 40th year with the 4th store with the 5th store. No? So, more than scale is the age. Age, it's not necessary that the sea is like a swimming pool. That's not the problem. We also troubling, also in a tempest. But the problem that we are clear what is the purpose, what is the aims, step by step, having the vision, the future vision. More the vision is longer, is for the future, and better it is. That's my opinion. We have. Okay, thank you.
Yes, I want to add an important thing about our experience. Lecce ran to become a European Capital of Culture 2018, and the payoff at the beginning of the candidation process was we have to find 2019 ideas for our cities and our communities. At that period of time, it seems to be an amazing target for small communities. 2,000 ideas rising for the citizen is a huge number, you know. But in the meanwhile, month after month, during 1 year process, we collect more than 3,000 ideas rising from everybody, from citizens, from kids, from companies, from university, from the hospitals. It's amazing in terms of scale. If your idea, if your vision is a solid vision, and you can prepare your community in order to adopt new services, new solutions to increase their quality of life, probably the people is ready right now, as we speak now in 2014, to be engaged, to be involved in the process, also in public processes. It's not easy, of course. But the scale, we have to start with a small idea, looking at the big picture, at the whole picture.
Thank you. Again, I will call again for a question from the public. Anyone wants to make a comment or question? Okay, so I will continue. Then there is an issue that I think is also critical and is related. I think in most of you talk a group of stakeholders around these urban labs, right? Then we talk about how good innovation is. Then we agree also that this is good for the city. We should foster citizen participation. But I'm interested to get an opinion from you in terms of conflicts of interest. Let's say you were talking about political issues. What happens when the public-funded laboratory is raising a critical issue that compromises the government? You were talking about companies. What happens when a solution developed by the community actually fucks, let's say, the business of a company? How we do this? I mean, how the conflict of interest operate in this sense? And I don't know. Is the market that is commanding what commands? And also, again, is the government will cut immediately the funds if they are criticizing, the citizens are making some kind of intervention criticizing them? What is your opinion? Or you can also intervene if you want.
Martina is a counselor of the city. You can explain Italian, you can translate.
Okay, no, you translate.
No, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Sì, il problema tra i proprietari, the matrimony,
Se no,
interest.
è un problema che può trovare soluzione solo nella chiarezza dei ruoli.
Only having it's a problem that can only be tackled by having very clear which are the roles.
Ma sia nel ruolo pubblico che nel ruolo dell'interlocutore, delle stakeholder.
More importantly is the role of the or kind of a mediator,
Administration
let's
e
say.
del
Okay?
stakeholder, perché tante volte è lo stakeholder che ha più ruoli e più interessi.
Is usually it's not only the public but actually the private or the stakeholder is the one that has more interest rather than the public administration.
In Italia questo succede spesso ed è la vera sfida ed è la vera battaglia.
This is a real battle in Italy and it happens a lot. Yeah, it's a big challenge.
E quello è il vero cambiamento che bisogna fare, quello della chiarezza dei vari interlocutori.
For example, no, just a few minutes. For example, we try in Pordenone. Pordenone, for example, is a small town, but in the midst of a great industrial district at a European level. Pordenone was the town of Zanussi, one of the myth of the now today's Electrolux, one of the giant, the titan of industry, but it's also the country of an archipelago very high of thousand small PME, no? But small, but very, very high. This country is in a critical condition now, today. Very critical condition. Okay, some might say, why we have to change? It's dramatic. Why we have to change? But someone others say, okay, the sea is high wave. Okay, we have to overpass this. No, we have no time to lose, to cry and to plaint, but we have only time to overpass. This is a good stakeholder because this is not talk on in terms of me, and me, but we and we. And that's important to change the paradigm to say, because if we love, everybody love. If I love, it's only me laughing. Okay, sorry.
Maybe I can add, we are an independent organization, sourcing project money from very different sources, and that helps clearly. So we don't have to be too sensitive about what can and cannot be said. The second answer is that the bottom-up movement is very strong. So in many respects, we've seen bottom-up solutions getting huge adoption without the involvement of any government or official body implementation, so we don't need them. On the other hand, the third answer is we do need them for things, because governments are there for inclusion and for giving everybody the same rights and the same level of access, in a sense. So we do need governance, and there we should not underestimate their capacity to change. I mean, we can overestimate what they can do in the short term, but we tend to underestimate what they do in the long term. Think about this term smart citizens that comes up now everywhere. It's a term that's maybe 1.5 year old. Everybody is taking that for granted, and everybody not only takes it, but also tries to change their procedures. And this is a change that I thought was incredible, and still it happens, so it can be done.
So possibly when the only battle that I lost with the mayor when I was negotiating the lab was I didn't want to be of government precisely because of that, because I thought that it was too much tension, too much turbulence. How do you negotiate this space, especially in Latin America? We have a slightly intense relationship with our government, to say the least. And so it was the only battle I lost during the negotiations, and I am really happy to be of government, because there's been so many epiphanies since I started, and it's definitely not an easy space, and there's a lot of things that you have to be thinking on your feet about, and the implications. As well as the romantic side as well, because, for example, citizen participation and governance and all of these things, I've been talking to people that are dealing with these issues, not only in Mexico City, but worldwide, and it's also very easy to romanticize society and think that, okay, because I just put out a call, then suddenly I'm going to have some fantastic ideas. I mean, I think there's a lot of stereotypes that we have to start really making a lot more nuanced on both sides. And how do you actually have that turbulence become something positive and constructive instead of just like a Babel tower, I think is going to be the big question, because I mean, technology is definitely an amplifier, and I don't think we've ever been better equipped to really think about governments and democracy and all of these things. But it's not as easy as it sounds, and there's a whole social process, I believe, that has to happen, especially in a place that houses both number 1, number 2 billionaire of the world, as well as people like one of the cities that is living under, has the lowest minimum wage in the world. So it's
1 minute. Talking about competition among the different stakeholders in the city, probably we have to move to a process of co-opetition among the different stakeholders and city providers of services. In this frame, I think we have to change the way we are approaching the services, the way to live our cities. We have a number of samples, but we don't have time, of course. But think about how we are using now some technologies available for free, like, for example, Google Maps. And think of what happened 10 or 15 years ago about the availability of map in order to produce a project from an architect or an engineer. Now we can produce and we can deliver any kind of services for mobility, for health, and for a number of other things. So the world has changed, of course, nothing new, but we have to change our mindset, and we have to change the culture and the way we are approaching the new way to live our smart city. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to make just a tiny comment. We pay Google Maps a lot. They are making a lot of money out of us. But thank you very much to all of you for your experiences and sharing with us what is happening in your countries and cities. Thank you, everyone. Go and take some coffee. Thanks. Bye.